Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This is going to be another classic movie review for you guys, and this time I'm going to be reviewing to you the 1987 war film classic Full Metal Jacket. Now let me explain something with Full Metal Jacket. I had that 3-pack with the 3 Stanley Kubrick movies, one of which I have not reviewed to you guys yet, and I will review to you eventually, but I haven't reviewed it yet. But the one movie that I really wanted to see that was not in that 3-pack was Full Metal Jacket. And, I wasn't actually planning on watching this year because I couldn't find it online. It's not online anywhere. Like, there are no links available or anything. And the only time, I had was, September, but it was coming to HBO Go in September, and I'd be in school. And I'm not reviewing classic movies in September because I'll be in school and I'm not going to have the time. But I went to Best Buy this one day, and you know how they have those $7.99 Blu-rays in those bins? Well, they had Full Metal Jacket in there. And I'm like, alright, I'm going to watch this. But I knew I wanted to see The Shining and A Clockwork Orange first, because I didn't want to watch this one first, because I thought that, I thought that it'd be weird to watch this one first. However, so I watched Shining, I watched Clockwork Orange, and especially after watching Clockwork Orange, which is probably one of my favorite movies of all time, you can imagine my excitement for this movie, how much I was looking forward to this movie. And so I just finished watching the movie, and overall, what did I think of Full Metal Jacket? Full Metal Jacket is, again, another amazing Stanley Kubrick classic. It is another masterpiece of his. He did another fantastic job on this movie. And wow, he just did a really great job to this movie, and it's not my favorite war movie. Saving Private Ryan I still think is better. However, it is a very close second, and it is definitely one of the best war films I've ever seen. So let's just get to what Full Metal Jacket's about. Basically, this movie is a pretty simple plot. It's kind of divided into 2 halves. The first half of this movie follows this, Vietnam War, private soldiers who are being trained with this really hard general, played by the brilliant R. Lee Ermey. Played by this General R. Lee Ermey, and he's, really tough on them. And you see how it sort of makes, you kind of see how his, taunting to them, and basically, his taunting and everything, kind of makes them all go crazy and, madness and everything. And something ends up happening in the first half that I'm not going to talk about yet because that is a spoiler. And the second half of the movie has to do with them going into the Vietnam War and basically having to become killers. And, by the way, they're Marine soldiers, and that's basically what Full Metal Jacket's about. It's about them. It's kind of divided into 2 halves, and very much like every other Stanley Kubrick movie, it does take a little while. It does take a while for the actual plot to start. Much like A Clockwork Orange. A Clockwork Orange is one of those movies where you don't really need to focus on it the whole time. Yes, you need to focus on it, but you don't need to focus on it as much as you would with, say, The Shining. The Shining you need to focus on the whole time. However, something like, say, A Clockwork Orange, you don't really need to start focusing until after he gets caught. Well, it's the same with this movie. Once the movie gets into that second half, that's when you need to start focusing. But let's get into a little bit more Full Metal Jacket. Let's get to the acting in this movie. The acting all across the board is fantastic. I have no issues with the acting. The acting is fantastic. Matthew Modine is our main star here. He plays the main lead, James T. Joker Davis. He is fantastic. I thought he did a really great job in this movie. He does a really great job narrating the movie. He was not my favorite in the movie, but he did do a very good job, and I really did enjoy his acting in the movie. He definitely gave a very good performance to this movie, and he definitely did a very good job, in my personal opinion. I thought he did a very good job, playing the, main character in the movie, and he really commanded the movie very well. You really cared for his character, and I really liked his character. His character is definitely very important in the movie, and I just thought he did a very, very good job. I believe he actually did he get nominated for an Academy Award? No, he did not get nominated for an Academy Award, but he definitely did do a very good job. And then you have Vincent D'Onofrio as Gomer Pyle. Now, I don't want to talk too much about his character, because if we talk too much about his character, I'm going to end up spoiling what his character does. But his character was probably one of the most one of the most memorable characters in this movie. He's only in the first, 40 minutes of the movie, but he is extremely memorable, and you guys will see why, but he is definitely a very good character. However, the guy that steals the show in this movie, without a doubt, is R. Lee Ermey. Oh my god, R. Lee Ermey. He's part of the reason why this movie is actually funny at times. This movie is actually funny at times. And actually a story about R. Lee Ermey, I'm sure everyone knows this if you've seen Full Metal Jacket. Stanley Kubrick was trying to find a really good guy to play, this really hard, tough as nails, gunnery sergeant. He was really trying to find a good guy to play him, and he casted R. Lee Ermey, but he wasn't convinced yet with R. Lee Ermey, because he wasn't convinced yet. What convinced him was that R. Lee Ermey actually, got out, basically, Stanley Kubrick said, I'm not going to cast you, and R. Lee Ermey's like, how dare you speak that way to me, and R. Lee Ermey was actually, a drill sergeant in real life, so he was experienced with this, and Stanley Kubrick decided to, cast him. Now, much of his dialogue is actually, improv, and he's amazing in the movie, because he's a real drill sergeant. You really feel like this is how he actually, it's hilarious to watch because the things he says to them are so funny. Like, the way he has, a 5-minute opening monologue in the first, 5 minutes of this movie. It's so memorable because what he's saying is hilarious, and it's funny because this is what he actually says to his drill sergeant. This is what he actually said to them. He was an actual, drill sergeant in the 1980s. By the way, you're probably wondering why was this movie made in the 1980s when all the other Vietnam... Because what Stanley Kubrick wanted to do was he wanted to make a war movie about Vietnam War back in the 70s. However, a little movie called Apocalypse Now came out, which I've never seen. I've heard it's good. I might check it out eventually. But, a little movie called Apocalypse Now came out, and because of that, Kubrick had to, kind of hold off and not be able to, do the movie till 1987. So that's why he did the movie so late. But, R. Lee Ermey, as I said, he is by far the best in this movie. He really does steal the show. He really is absolutely fantastic. Now, the directing of this movie. The directing is very good. Stanley Kubrick obviously directed this movie. And once again, he does an amazing job. He actually does a really good job of the first half, being sort of you get to know the characters a little more, and the second half is where he puts them in real war situations, and both halves are very interesting, and I thought he did a good job. It wasn't like the first half was good and the second half was boring. No, both halves were very interesting. He did a great job with that. The cinematography in this movie is amazing to watch. The cinematography is fantastic. I love the cinematography of this movie. Once again, great cinematography. Now, my favorite cinematography to a Kubrick film, that would still be A Clockwork Orange, but still, this was great cinematography. The editing was fantastic. This is the shortest Stanley Kubrick movie I've actually watched. This movie's actually 117 minutes. It's this short of 2 hours. This short. So, I actually like that Stanley Kubrick didn't do a movie that was 2 hours, because most of his movies are over 2 hours, and this movie was one of his only movies that's pretty short, actually, and I kind of like that with this movie, because it's different from his other movies. So yeah, that was definitely very good, and this movie did get quite a few awards. It was nominated for Best Screenplay at the Oscars. It did not win, though. It got a couple BAFTA awards. The only thing that it won was R. Lee Ermey did win Boston Society of Film Critics Awards, which he deserves. Golden Globes, R. Lee Ermey was nominated. Things like that. But now let's get to the spoilers to this movie. If you guys have not seen Full Metal Jacket, do not watch the rest of this review, because there's something that happens in the halfway point of this movie that's very important. So the biggest part, of course, is when Gomer Pyle just went crazy. I did not know what was going to happen with him. I thought, I knew something was going to happen with him when he went crazy. I knew it. I was like, okay, this is really early in the movie, because at that point, I thought the whole movie was basic training, and then, they went to war. I thought that's what it was. I thought, for the rest of the movie, he was going to be crazy. But when he picked up that rifle, I did not know what he was going to do. The second that R. Lee Ermey walked in, he shot the, Hartman, I was in shock. I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. And then when he killed himself, it was just like, wow, because you felt so bad for James T. Joker. Now, my only complaint with that is that he did not get PTSD from that, and I was assuming he would get PTSD, because he saw, but I guess he didn't get PTSD because he didn't see them die in war. He saw him die, by killing himself, and I thought that was just very, very big, and that's one of the reasons why Gomer Pyle's performance was so memorable. And then, of course, you get to the second half of the movie, and the second half of the movie, when they had to, kill, and when shit's going down, I mean, shit goes down in this movie, I mean, that was definitely very intense. The last, I'd say 20 minutes of this movie, probably the most intense part of this movie was the last 20 minutes of the movie. Especially when Cowboy was shot, that is when it was like, oh, holy shit, shit's about to go down. And then when that teenage girl was there, and she was trying to, she almost shot James. I didn't know what was going to happen to her, but then when she was shot, I was like, she basically begged for death, and, she had a mercy killing. I was like, okay, I understand that. And when they sang the Mickey Mouse March, I think it was kind of trying to show that, the victory, sort of, their victory. And I love his closing speech, where he says, "In a world of shit, I'm glad to be alive and no longer afraid." I thought that was definitely a very good way to end the movie, and I definitely really enjoyed that about the movie. It was a perfect way to end the movie, and I really did enjoy that about the movie. I thought that was fantastic. Now, I will say, one thing about the movie, back to, one other thing. How is this movie compared to Saving Private Ryan? In my opinion, it's not as good as Saving Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan's a bit more memorable, but this movie is still very memorable, and it still is a very good movie, and it still holds up today. It still is a very good movie today, and it still is a classic movie. It still is a very good movie, and that's why it's one of Kubrick's most well-known movies. I mean, it still is a very good movie. Is it as good as The Clockwork Orange? No. Is it as good as The Shining? A little bit. I kind of like I don't know which one. I don't know if I like The Shining or this one more. I like both of them more. By the way, this was based on a book called The Short Timers, and part of the reason why Stanley Kubrick liked that book was because of its humor, and it's actually very interesting how he has so much humor in this movie. But the thing about this movie that's so good is it is very realistic. It is realistic with the Vietnam War. It is realistic with how things went. It is very realistic with that. And that's part of the reason why this movie is such a classic, because it is so realistic. It's very realistic, it's very stylistic, and it's a movie that continues to be relevant today. It's a movie that continues to be watched by people today, and it's a movie that I recommend that all you guys definitely watch, especially if you're into war movies. This is a very, very good war movie. There are some really good war movies out there. This happens to be one of them. Definitely check out Full Metal Jacket. It is an absolute classic, and it is a movie that deserves to be watched by many, many people, and just definitely check it out because it is absolutely fantastic. Alright, so that's basically for my review of Full Metal Jacket. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys saw this movie. I was going to do an analysis for this movie, but there wasn't, too much to do for an analysis for this movie. It's the only Kubrick movie that you really don't need to analyze, in my opinion. But that's pretty much my review. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for another classic movie review, because I'm going to try to watch another one right now, so I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.